Hello, welcome to the first of a series of tutorials. I hope many more tutorials to come. I'll be covering music theory. Just maybe quickly a little bit about myself. My name's Jeremy Hunt, and I have a PhD in music composition and theory from the University of California at Berkeley. And I love to learn and love to teach, so I thought that I would make these tutorials for the self-directed learners out there. I hope you appreciate them. So today we're going to start with the music fundamentals, and specifically we'll be talking about notation. And I'm just going to go through very quickly and point out the different elements of music notation. I'm not really going to explain in depth what they are. That will come in future tutorials. But I thought that I would at least go through and talk about each element so that as we come upon them to talk about them, you'll have heard them before and have some idea of what's to come. So first of all, we'll start by talking about the staff. So in music, we write all of our music on the staff. Generally, it consists of 5 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 lines and 4 spaces. And you see here that these lines here denote a measure of music. So you can see there are 3 measures here with music in them. Sometimes these are called bars, sometimes they're called measures, and these lines are called measure lines or bar lines. We have notes. So here, this part of the note, the filled in part, or this is not filled in, but these are called the note heads. And then these little parts that stick up here are called the note stems, or sometimes they go down. Sometimes notes also have what's called beams. This is called a beam, and it connects these 2 notes together. Also, you might see sometimes notes have, I'll put one in here, flags. So as you can see, this note right here has a flag. So we have the note head, the note stem, and the note flag. Also, sometimes notes will have dots after them. So you can see I just put a dot in there, and sometimes they'll even have double dots. Again, we'll get into what all this means in a future tutorial. Also, in music, there are these things called accidentals. You can see right here, this is an accidental. This is the flat. In fact, let me open up a menu that has more accidentals. So here you can see there's quite a few accidentals to choose from. This is called a flat. This is called a sharp. Flat means to lower the pitch of the note a little bit. Sharp means to raise it a little bit. This is called the double sharp. It's like the X there. That's to raise it 2 little bits. This is the double flat, and that's to lower the note 2 little bits. And then all of these other ones that you see pertain to microtonal notation, which we probably, hopefully, will get into at a future time, but I'm not going to introduce that now. That's kind of a more of an advanced topic. So sometimes accidentals will come before the note. In fact, they always come before the note, but sometimes you'll see accidentals in music attached to different note heads. And that means to, as I just said, raise or lower the note a little bit, or to raise it or lower it a little bit. Okay, at the beginning of the staff, here, all this stuff I'm going to explain now. So we have first here, these numbers are what's called the time signature. They pertain to the meter of the music. What beats, how many beats there are in a measure. And again, if you don't know what a beat is, that's fine, I'll explain it later. But this tells you how many beats there are in a measure and what beats are emphasized, where we place the stress. This is the key signature. key signatures are always done with sharps and flats, and they happen on the different lines. The different lines of music, if you don't know, lines and spaces are named, and so this flat right here is on this line, and that is the B line. So that means that all the B's in this piece of music to follow should be played as B flats. That means they should all be lowered a little bit. There's many different types of key signatures. Here they are. So you can see how they have sharps and flats. In traditional music, or older music, let's say, typically we don't mix the sharps and flats, so if there's a key signature, it's always going to have all sharps or all flats, although some contemporary or modern music gets into different types of key signature creations, but again, that's a more advanced topic. And then this beautiful little swirly stuff here, those are called clefs, and there are many different types of clefs. Let me bring up a window that shows you all of that. All these clefs have different meanings. This clef, which is also right here, is called the G clef or the soprano clef, and you see how it swirls there like that around this line right here. That is telling us that that line right there is a G, and so this is called the G clef. We also have the F clef, which is here. The two little dots around this line mean that that line is to be counted as an F. And so all the other lines and spaces are named according to that. Sometimes you'll see a treble clef or a soprano clef with the 8 above it. This is a transposing clef. That means that all the music on that staff should be played an octave higher. Again, lots of stuff here that you probably aren't familiar with, but we'll cover it in future tutorials. If there's a 15 above it, that is 2 octaves above. Sometimes you'll see the 8 below. That means it's to be played an octave lower. The most common clefs you'll see are the treble clef, the bass clef or the G clef, and the F clef, and also the C clef. And typically you'll see the C clef like this, which is typically called when it's like that, it's called the alto clef. And if you can see, the little brace comes in and it focuses on this line right here, that means that that line is to be counted as a C, and then all the other lines and spaces are figured from that fact that that's a C. So this is, when you see it like this is an alto clef, and when you see it here, this is called a tenor clef. And those 4 clefs, the soprano, alto, tenor, and bass clefs, are the most typical clefs. Again, you might be, if you're a guitar player, there's tab clefs and so on, and these are percussion clefs. So that covers the clefs. You see this right here, this is called a slur. That means when all these notes are to be played together as a kind of a grouping. This, however, is different than this. This is called a tie, and you see that this note is the same note as this note. That means that this note carries into this note. You don't re-articulate this note. It's to be played for this whole duration. You see that little line right there that note is sitting on top of? If we have to write notes above or below the staff, we write them on these ledger lines. This is called a ledger line, so you'll see those from time to time. Also, we have tempo markings generally. That tells us how fast to play the music. So right here, sometimes there are words, like this is an Italian word, andante. Sometimes it'll be a note with an equal sign, and then it'll give you a number that tells you how many beats per minute you're supposed to play. And then you have other signs like this that control the dynamics. And this is a P for piano. Again, it's an Italian word that means to play quietly. Also, sometimes you'll just see words or other things, and they typically refer to the character of the music. So you might see a word that says legato, which means to play the music in a certain way. Or you might see instructions like, play this like you're grouchy or something like that. And so those will be kind of character markings that tell you how to play the music. That might be things that you see.